Hi, welcome to my channel. PK Explains. And I present to you PM-101, a project manager's pocket reference. Based on this book, a book of 101 common sense tips, ideas, and concepts for project managers. I hope it will assist you in your jobs. It includes tips on initiation, planning, execution, meetings, politics. Now available a free video and audio companion guide. If you enjoy this guide and find it helpful, please like, share, subscribe. Help me to help and support others too. Before we move to the first chapter, initiation, let me also state that the most insightful texts I have ever come across were brief and had remarkably few words. The words of wisdom are few. In addition to the reference books, we also need a quick reference and actionable advice. It is convenient to have a list of actions at hand that can help in moving ahead. This is an essential guide with the most basic and common sense tips that are needed to manage projects of all sizes and complexities. It is a collection of the most effective actions a project manager must take. Many of these ideas are found in the most widely accepted project management frameworks and best practices. It is also a collection of my own experiences. This guide is organized in alignment with the themes that commonly occur at different stages of the project management life cycle. I have designed this guide to make sure that you can organize your actions as needed. Therefore, do listen to it regularly, maybe once a month. Thank you. Without much further ado, let's get into it. Initiation, the foundation. The reactions of the stakeholders to an initiative, at its beginning, are mixed, and we are familiar with most of them. Few of the recurring reactions are: oops, one of those pet projects. A death march. Impossible to deliver. Really? Must be wishful thinking. This project will make or break the company. Let's go for the kill. But who will fund us? Game changer. And sometimes we may also dread, is it time to change my job? However, a strategic fit initiative always gets funding, support, and with the right team, an acceptable solution. It takes a solid foundation to create a beautiful and durable structure. A leader gets a similar opportunity during the initiation phase, which is to develop a strong foundation for the project. Numerous practices can guarantee you're building this foundation, but the gist of it comes down to only a few handfuls of actions. Here are a few of them. First, articulate the success criteria so that you know when you are done with it. Second, identify when it will end. Third, in case the project lasts more than 3 to 4 months, a phased delivery approach is ideal, and it should be planned accordingly. Fourth, in case the project is longer than 6 months, try to divide it into multiple projects. When this is not possible, choose an execution strategy that delivers in smaller stages. Smaller stages are manageable and help in achieving the project's outcome relatively earlier. Fifth, identify project stakeholders. Sixth, prepare a project charter with correct definitions and business case. Seventh, create a high-level project delivery plan that considers the cost, time, and quality constraints. Put this plan into the charter. Eighth, ensure that the project charter is approved by stakeholders, including a sponsor and the steering committee. Keep in mind that a charter is your marching order. Ninth, conduct a high-level risk analysis. Any risk having an effect on project delivery should have either a mitigation or contingency plan. This risk must be communicated to the stakeholders and, ideally, should also be documented in the charter. 10th, prepare a project organization structure with clear roles and responsibilities chart. It should be clear who is and who is not on the team. 11th, don't forget to discuss and agree with the team about roles and responsibilities. 12th, plan to build a core team of the project. This helps when you get into execution and the going gets tough. 13th, be clear about the budget that is allocated to your project. 14th, plan to track and report the costs. 15th. At this point, You should also be clear about how cost variance will be managed and reported. 16th, understand the high-level scope. At this point, it may not be possible to realize the full spectrum of the project, but this is a perfect time to establish an overall scope of the delivery. 17th, identify the variance thresholds that must lead to the replanning. 18th, identify assumptions. No matter how strong the business case is, the assumptions, when not identified, tested, and verified, can lead to failure. This can lead to significant cost impacts on the organization. 19th, communicate assumptions to the stakeholders. During the initiation phase, the charter is the right place to describe the assumptions that have an impact on the project outcome. The last, 20th, is to identify constraints. Just like assumptions, a constraint that can lead to any impact on the project's outcome must be communicated to the stakeholders. As we come to the end of initiation and before we move the next phase in the project management lifecycle, here are a few critical points to remember as you lay the foundation of your success. Remember that 1. The project will not be successful without stakeholders buy-in. 2. Unclear responsibilities are an invitation to disaster. Prevent it. 3. Assumptions and constraints are the tools. Use them to manage the projects, not to play blame games. 4. If the stakeholders' power, influence, authority, and urgency for the project are not known, the value of the project's outcome remains unknown. Planning. The blueprint. Before we begin, few cliches about project planning. Make a plan to meet the deadlines. Do it whatever it takes. Poor plan. Can't meet the completion date. So many features in this budget? Define your scope. Assemble a team and assign roles. Estimation? What is it? We can't do it. Plan approved. Now what? Assumptions. Constraints. Wishes. Whims and fancies. Yes. We can. It is said that a plan without action is worthless, and the action without a plan is disastrous. A project plan is a blueprint of how you want to deliver the desired outcome. A project plan is either a single document or it is a collection of various smaller documents. While a plan is believed to be a one-time activity, planning is an iterative process, as it is not humanly possible to plan a project in one go. Here are some pointers to keep in mind while planning. First, planning is an ongoing process. Therefore, please keep in mind that, though we have a dedicated planning phase in the life cycle, we can never have an unalterable plan. Second, project scope. If it is not possible to sign off the scope, it must be clear enough so that the project is not rejected by the stakeholders after it is delivered. Third, be sure to identify exactly what is unclear about the scope and put it into the status report. Make a clear recommendation about how you would like to handle the uncertain parts of the scope. Fourth, identify procurement needs by performing make-buy assessments and cost-benefit analysis. Fifth, decisions. A leader has to make decisions almost every minute of his or her job. Make a clear decision-making framework for the team to follow. Sixth, the execution approach will make you go for the kill. Though there is a project plan, having an appropriate execution approach helps in keeping the plan flexible while keeping the high-level plan undisturbed. Seventh, as the project progresses, the smaller details and problems begin to emerge. Therefore, conceive a change management framework to assist in accommodating such changes in the project plan. Eighth, define ownership in the team. Give the responsibility for the project's parts, modules, or areas to the core team members. This brings us to the next step. Ninth, delegate. Put a plan in place to delegate to the right people. 10th, prepare a project risk register. A risk register should be a central place where all of the risks related to the project are documented and tracked regularly. Appropriate risks must be communicated to the stakeholders in a timely manner. 11th, make a plan to monitor and control the project. This plan must be based on the organizational framework and the stakeholders' needs and interests. 12th. Identify and agree on the stakeholders' information needs, and prepare a robust communication plan. 13th. Identify the information collection and communication tools you would like to use. For example, email, wiki, organizational or public social networks, etc. 14th. Identify project indicators based on the success criteria. Your project status report must bring transparency as per the agreed-upon project indicators. 15th. The project team is the pulse of the progress. Be sure to discuss project status regularly, even daily if possible. 16th. Prepare a project deliverables list. 17th. Prepare a work breakdown structure based on the scope, deliverables, and high-level schedule. 18th. Prepare a resource plan based on skill assessment and project needs. 19th. With all of this information, you can now prepare project estimates. 20th. Identify project training needs. Roles should be taken up by the right people with the precise skills. 21st. Go back to the beginning and refine the plan as needed. As I wrap up the discussions about the planning phase of project management lifecycle, always keep in mind that 1. Putting a plan together without a replanning criterion is poor planning. 2. 3 habits that make a plan perfect, which are revisiting, revising, improvising. 4. A consensus-based decision-making framework slows down the system and can potentially destroy the team spirit. 5. Culture of delegation enables people and matures the organization. 6. Be clear about what is your receivable. This is your dependency. Execution, building it. Often, the execution starts when we are not even halfway through the initiation. Few of the situations you might have come across while in the execution phase are conflicts, deviations, politics, change, team burnout. Additionally, the following statements are easily heard. It was never the plan. Don't put that in the report. Failure is not an option. Who approved requirements? It was the wrong plan. I told you so. Remember that the initiation is never complete without a signed-off project charter, and planning is never finished without stakeholders' approval of the plan. A charter sign-off will sometimes take several months. An overlap is often found between various phases of the project management life cycle, but each of them has a unique purpose. First, the execution phase is the most dynamic phase. It's always important, though, to keep this phase simple. Second, refer back to the plan and see acceptance criteria is relevant. Do it often, as this will prove useful while managing changes. Third, periodically, go back to the charter and see if it's still valid. Fourth, keep an eye on the risks. Fifth, problems, obstacles, constraints, issues, whatever you want to call them, can be dangerous to the project's health. Sixth, identify the resolutions to these problems. Continue to keep an eye out for trouble and finding quick, effective resolutions to them. Seventh, communicate project status to the right people. Eighth, keeping a sharp focus on risks, problems, constraints and proposed resolutions will ensure that the project remains on track. Ninth, work to develop a bond amongst the team members. 10th, how about some team building activities? Go back to the plan and see if you need more of team building. 11th, look for some early indicators of the quality of the project outcome. It may be at the milestone review, an intermediate project review, an assessment, or an audit. You may also want to hire subject matter experts to do this for you. However, many times, you will get such information from the team itself. You only need to listen. 12th, regularly review progress against acceptance and success criteria. 13th, measure the project performance against baselines. Cost, schedule, quality. Identify deviations and plan revisions. Put these in the report as appropriate. It will ensure due transparency and adequate support from the right people. 14th, revise baselines when thresholds are crossed. This is the most exhaustive move that results in overwork, but it also helps you to keep the project under control. 15th, keep an eye on changes. Are they worthwhile changes, or are the changes in focus that are detrimental to your project? Have you analyzed them to the point where you can determine their impact on the outcome? 16th, how about some skill development courses for the team? 17th, do you know how you will handle conflicts? You must be clear on how you should be handling any personal conflicts within the team. 18th, have an agreement with the team about the ground rules of working together. It will address the situation where the core team members are uncomfortable. This single step will help to ensure that conflicts are avoided as often as possible. 19th, prioritize. Always be clear about a project's priorities, and the priorities will always be changing. 20th, are all of the agreed upon processes still reasonable? Do you need further tweaking or tailoring? 21st, keep the team motivated, as this will pay off for you, them, and the project. In conclusion, let me summarize execution phase with following points. 1. Customer needs are always increasing. 2. In troubled times, only the team can steer you out of trouble. Be mindful of this. 3. Changes can also be taken up in a separate project to keep the project cleaner. 4. The project manager and the team spend most of their time in this phase. After execution, let's move to closure. Closure. Finishing it. Project closure is about giving finishing touches to your achievements. Essentially, it means you have contributed a lot for deliveries, now it is time to finish it. Some of the commonly occurring themes during a closure phase are: we should fix the blame now. We have delivered, customer is happy, what is this process now? This is an opportunity for us to improve our process. Formal acceptance. Customer feedback. We did it. Considering the massive amount of administrative work required in this phase, some organizations tend to ignore this phase, but you should ensure that a project is closed properly. This project will be referred to by others in future. The work that they refer would be attributed to you and your team. Considering that a delivered project is a legacy, try to make sure that you are remembered positively for your legacy. Here are some of the pointers that can help you to streamline the project closure. First, most importantly, once you announce that the project is closed in all aspects, the morale of the team gets a boost. They feel that they have worked on something worthwhile for the organization, hence, formal project closure is a booster to their morale and confidence. Second, this strong morale and confidence booster will benefit the current ongoing projects in the organization. Third, prepare a project archive location, folder, or archive file where anybody can find information about the entire project. Fourth, anyone looking for information on this project should get all of it at one place. Fifth, the time you get acceptance, check to see if there is anything outstanding. Sixth, identify pending action items, work packages, changes, etc. that can delay the closure. Seventh, plan a closure review. Eighth, this review must focus on rights, wrongs, and should have beens. Ninth, the intent of this review is to improve the process and not to blame people. This is a killer if it's not done right. 10th, contact the accounts department and take note of any pending invoices that need to be processed or raised. 11th, prepare a list of assets that are to be handed over or returned. 12th, specifically, ask the stakeholders for any pending items. 13th, of course, contact the customers for formal acceptance. I consider closure as a special phase in the life cycle of project management. 1. A project is never complete without formal closure. 2. Project information must be archived and organized in such a way that it helps the organization to learn and improve the delivery process. 3. The organization does not learn when the closure is skipped. 4. Given that a project is your legacy in the organization, makes closure a special phase. As we wrap up the closure, let's move to meetings. Meetings. the notorious time killer. At the outset, let me mention a few keywords and expressions associated with meetings. Moderator. Escalation. Issues. Splendid. Finally, my topic is on the agenda. Wow. How can people talk so much? I thought we don't have time to waste. Really? What am I doing here? A call for volunteers for the mismanaged tasks? Scarcity of time. We all end up spending our time in meetings. Though you have identified the adequate number of discussions to be organized with the project stakeholders in the communication plan, the number of meetings and the number of stakeholders in the sessions are dynamic and usually dependent upon the specific situation. Generally, the following guidelines should help you to organize better. First, look for a strong moderator if the project is longer and the team is more extensive. Second, ensure that the meetings don't end up being time wasters. Third, keep an agenda. Do not allow the audience to deviate from it. Fourth, ensure that you are meeting the team regularly. Get information about project status, risks, issues, problems, etc. Fifth, if you fail to do this, you will soon be drifting away from reality. Sixth, most of the meetings can be wrapped up in 30 minutes. Stick with this time. Only special meetings should be longer than 30 minutes. Seventh, decide on the number of participants in the meetings. Not all of the regular meetings will require participation from all of the invitees each time. Eighth, many times, you can avoid a meeting by making a phone call or walking over to the desk. Strike a balance to optimize the time you spend in meetings. Ninth, typically, only a few amongst the participants are interested in the heated debates that occur during the meetings. All such topics can be taken out of the sessions and dealt with elsewhere. 10th, don't allow meetings to be a political theater. Discourage the display of hidden agendas. As we wrap up discussion on meetings, remember that ambiguous communication is the root of problems. If you have a good moderator and a delegate, you can concentrate on the direction and focus of all team communication. Politics, though it exists, few accept its existence during the formal conversations at the workplace. We all play it, sometimes we win, and on other times we lose the game. We can smell politics when we note that no one is ready to sign off. No one is clear who does what. This can double my bonus. Is there anyone who makes decisions here? Let's not take minutes. This discussion is off the record. I am the director's favorite. Nobody can touch me. And at times, even on our well-deserving coffee and promotion. Politics. It does exist. And let's talk about it. Bring two people together for profits and politics will occur. I have met several managers and seniors during the early years of my career, and most of them denied any existence of politics of any kind in the projects. Thankfully, this glaring white lie didn't turn me into a cynic. Interestingly, back then, none of the process frameworks I was studying and working with gave any advice on how to handle politics in projects. Without much ado, let's get into it. First, politics can be both healthy and filthy. Second, it can either be due to governance, or it can be the result of human greed. Third, indecision. Any sign of it is evidence that political elements exist. Fourth, silence. If there are issues or topics that nobody is willing to discuss, irrespective of how serious they are, politics is likely involved. Fifth, refer to the stakeholder analysis that was done during the initiation phase. Sixth, identify stakeholders whose positions will either be more powerful or better off with the successful rollout. Seventh, identify people who have power in the organization to influence the project decisions. Eighth, gather as much information as possible from the people you have identified. Ninth, your goal should be to keep a tab on their interests and objectives related to this project. 10th, Keep a tab on the progress with respect to the interests of the people you have identified. 11th. Monitor scope. Prevent scope creep. 12th. As said earlier, uncertainty and silence are signs of politically sensitive areas. 13th. Keep your risk and issues log up to date. 14th. Ensure that the risks and issues and their impacts are communicated to the appropriate stakeholders. 15th. As a project manager, your responsibility does not stop at communicating the potential impacts. You will also need to make some recommendations to remove the obstacles. 16th. Be subtle. No one has succeeded in handling organizational politics by being obvious. You can only handle it by keeping quiet and not being in a rush. In the end, please remember: 1. That you don't have to worry about politics as long as it is evident that the impacts of risks, issues, decisions, and indecisions are communicated. Such pieces of evidence can help you in navigating the politics. 2. There is a difference between making enemies and playing politics. Make friends and not enemies. 3. Hidden agendas often mock processes and responsible behavior in projects, programs, organizations, societies, and nations. Now, we have reached the end. I wanted to create a simple guide containing the basic minimal checkpoints, which my fellow PMs can refer to anytime and anywhere. PM-101 covers such basic steps. I am glad that in addition to the booklet, I am also able to make it available in the audio and video formats, that too free. Don't forget to leave comments, as I always look forward to reading them. If you enjoyed this guide, please help it reach others by liking, sharing and subscribing to my channel, PK Explains. The algorithms of the social platforms will show this free guide to more of their users. Finally, I want to leave you with this thought that it's never common sense. In the end, it's the application of common sense that makes the best practices effective. I am grateful for your time. Thank you.